Welcome back to the Quantum Connection podcast. I'm Heather Crimson with my co-host Vanessa Baldwin. We're so excited to have you here with us. We have an amazing episode today that is super, super important. It's all about gut issues. So we're going to just dive in. And the focus is what is the cause of all these modern day gut issues that it seems to be an epidemic now? What are some of the root causes? And then what are some of the things that you can do to help resolve these gut issues?
Yeah, such an important topic. I mean, who doesn't have gut issues these days? I feel like every client I see, every person in the modern world has gut issues. So this is such an important topic. And we're going to share, I think, some very different ideas about what can really support gut health, right?
Yep.
So I'm excited about it to chat with you about this today. And we both had our own experience with gut health issues. So yeah, we want to remind you just like thank you for tuning in, help us grow, rate, review if you can. We really appreciate that. And join us on YouTube, also at Bright Light Wellness and Enlightened Mood. We appreciate that
Yeah.
so much.
Yes.
So,
And also just remember that this is not medical advice. This is
mm,
just from our own personal experience. We're not giving you any kind of like prescriptions or, like specific recommendations. You have to work with your providers and make sure that you're tailoring the information to what works for you based on, you knowing your own body. So just putting that out there.
yes, 100%. Very, very important. Never medical advice on this podcast. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So we talked about how most modern people have compromised gut health, right? Like leaky gut is so common, and this is where the intestinal walls weaken and allow bacteria and toxins, to flow into the bloodstream. The lining literally has holes and is not sealed anymore, and then we can absorb, assimilate our nutrients from the food, and then we get all kind of things like food sensitivities, brain fog, vertigo, fatigue, anxiety, depression, diarrhea, constipation, histamine issues, oxalate issues. It's just like a mess, really. Our guts are just a mess. And, it's like, okay, now what? Right. So, of course, there's the typical, approach, right? Which honestly, in my experience, I'm sure your experience usually fails. So the first approach is, to go to your regular GI doctor, get the allopathic meds, this is usually going to suppress the symptoms, drive pathology deeper. So maybe your bloody diarrhea will go away, or maybe your, mucus in your stool might go away, but then you have wind up with depression or something on the mental emotional sphere, right? That's what we mean when we say driving the pathology deeper, right? We take something that is more on the physical level, we suppress it, it goes into the mental emotional now, right? So that's definitely not a real solution. But a lot of times too, what I also see is that they doesn't even get better from these regular treatments. Like these medicines don't even work, right? So there's no real solution. There's no real, great, care that we get from, GI doctors when it comes to chronic issues, right? And I did that. I went to a GI doctor. I was like, that was the biggest waste of my time and energy, because they don't even want to hear what you have to say. They just want to,
Yep.
give you a medication. So it's so frustrating. So yeah.
So sometimes even before that, Vanessa, what people will do, and I think I'd put this in the allopathic category, that's why I'm mentioning it now, is that people will try to self-diagnose, self-prescribe. So they're online, they're on Dr. Google, right? They're trying to figure out. But even back into before that, some people may not even realize that they have some gut issues. It's like, oh, I'm just bloated once in a while, or I'm just constipated, which is like is actually a big issue, right? It's a big problem, but oh, now it's almost normalized. I just want to say that that's not normal to not be able to have at least one bowel movement every day. That's if it's fewer than that, then you're constipated. But so people might
Mhm.
even try to self-prescribe. They go, they may be burping, they may have bloating, they have stomach upset or whatever. So gas, right? All the things. And they're gonna like, I'll just take some digestive enzymes. I'll just take one thing that's really problematic is they'll take some antacids. Like I grew up watching my
Mhm.
grandfather just eat those like candy. And those things actually, I think, are really not helpful and they can create a bigger problem. So sometimes it's a matter of not having enough stomach acid. And that's one of the things that I struggle with. So I use bitters. So anyway, we'll get to more of that kind of thing. But this
Mhm.
people trying to figure out what to do on their own. And it's like a temporary amelioration, but it doesn't really get to the root cause. So that's why we're doing the show today is we want to talk about what is this really all about? Why is this happening like on epidemic proportions? And what can we do to really start turn things around?
Yeah, I totally forgot about the burping and the bloating and the gas and all of that, like, and the heartburn, all of that. And yeah, people do pop antacids. And actually, that's usually going to cause more of an issue because the issue is low stomach acid. And then you're making your stomach acid even lower. And now you need stomach acid to absorb and digest your nutrients. So actually, that makes things worse in the long run. And honestly, if it does get rid of the heartburn, it's just a Band-Aid and you can't get off of it. And then they have very seriously long-term side effects. I mean, I don't have that information in front of me, but I know I have definitely heard about the long-term side effects of that being really negative. But again, that's just a Band-Aid approach. It's never going to get to the real root cause, which is usually the next thing that people go to is the functional medicine. They try the food sensitivity test. We talked about this before. This brings all the fear. Heather Crimson had nothing she could eat but beef on her list. Like, this is not a solution either. The solution is not to say, oh, what are you sensitive to? And then eliminate all those foods. No, we have to,
As if
it's not
somehow that's going to change the picture. And maybe they
right.
think that it's going to aggravate your gut less so it'll heal, but that's never happens to me. And I don't think for most people that actually works.
No, not the case. It's not the food, it's you. And I
Right.
don't mean that in a mean way because I've had struggled with these things, but I still can't eat strawberries, but it's not the strawberries. It's not the strawberries' fault. It's my gut. My gut needs work still. I'm still working on it, right? We have to work on supporting and strengthening you and your energetic body, tend to your terrain, tend to your soil, right? That's what we have to do in order to heal that. I mean, that's just a Band-Aid approach. It's never going to work, right? So
And who
we
wants to
also,
live the rest of their life without eating strawberries? I mean, seriously. Now, I would recommend getting the best quality. When I first moved to where I'm living now, been here 21 years. This is a long time ago. So it's like one of the places where we have garlic, we have artichokes, and we have a lot of strawberries. So I
Mhm.
went to town on these strawberries, and they were organic, mind you, like because I've always eaten organic since like 92 or whatever. But I developed a condition. When you talk about it's not the strawberries, it was me. I got this lovely condition called blepharitis where my eyelids puffed up so big and inflammation. I literally look like it's like I couldn't even open my eyes. So I go to the eye doctor and they're like, wow, you have blepharitis. What are you doing? And they figured out that it was the strawberries. As soon as I stopped eating them, it went away. So I don't know what that was. I don't have that anymore, but I don't eat that many strawberries. So it's
Mm.
something about my inability to process whatever was in those. And yeah, maybe there was some runoff or, like pesticide runoff or blow over or whatever. But still, I did not do well with those strawberries.
Well, I'm hoping I said to myself, I'm going to try strawberries every June because that's when they're in season and that's, seasonal, local, organic, of course, is what we promote.
Maybe
So
it'll work better.
yeah, so every year I'm going to gauge my health, my gut health, and if I can eat the strawberries or not. Just we'll
You know
see
what would
what
be
happens.
so cool, Vanessa, is to get some wild strawberries. When I went up in Mendocino County to these
Mhm.
amazing hot springs I used to go to called Ore Hot Springs, they're so amazing. We were walking on this, remote road out in the middle of nowhere, and I saw these little strawberries, and they were so good. They're this big. Instead of
Mm,
these bloated, giant, disgusting ones that I see, even organic, those are disgusting. Like, get the little strawberries, and then if you can find them
mm.
wild, that's a good test. Maybe it's something about the domesticated ones that bothers us. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But the ones I get from Dutch Meadows Farms are the little small ones. Like they are like
Oh, I'm
not the,
so jealous.
yeah, they're not the giant, like there's something in those,
I
right?
need to
The ones
order
that
those.
literally, well, when they come out in June, I'll remind you. But when
Okay.
they're so giant like that, the fruit, that makes me
Yeah.
concerned that they put
Frankenfood.
something in that to make them grow like that,
They are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Okay.
Oh,
Now
goodness. So
back to the
elimination diets also, right? Elimination diets are just a short-term band-aid. This is like the food sensitivity test, right? You're going to say, okay, I'm going to go with the carnivore diet. I'm going to go on the GAPS diet. I'm going to cut out all these foods. I'm going to go to the autoimmune protocol diet, right? All of these diets are short-term band-aid approaches also. And honestly, I think that, I mean, not for everybody. I mean, in the short term, maybe a carnivore diet can have some benefit for some. It depends on the person. I do think that. But honestly, in the long term, I wouldn't be surprised that that's not causing some gut dysbiosis, some mineral and nutrient imbalances if done for too long. And I don't think it's a good long term solution. I think if you have to eat a carnivore diet to be healthy and you haven't really fixed the root cause issue, right? If you haven't really got to the issue because you should be able to tolerate the strawberries when they're in season and they're local to your environment. You should be able to eat some, of these foods. So I know people don't want to hear that, but I do feel that way. Like we can't, if we really are healed, we should be able to tolerate these
I agree
things.
with you. I do think that, like you said, that there's some merit to and usefulness using these elimination diets only temporarily. Now, if somebody's like
Yes.
super debilitated and bedridden, then they may need it for longer. I think that's fine. Their gut literally cannot process
Mhm.
anything else besides just straight up clean meat, like beef and whatnot, which is usually what people do. They do beef only and salt and water. But that's to me is more just of a healing intervention. That's not a long-term sustainable strategy that's ideal for
No,
optimizing your overall health.
I don't think it should be something you should be doing for your whole life, personally.
Exactly.
Um, anyway, and then there's the running the labs, take the supplements, run the GI map. Of course, I ran my own GI map. I've done that. I said, test your shit. Isn't that so fun when you test your shit and you send it off? Like, it's so stupid.
Oh
And
no.
you know what drives me nuts about it is it's just a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
Honestly, just like blood work is just a snapshot in time, and your body is energetic and always changing. And your gut microbiome and your bacteria in your gut microbiome should be different based on the season that you're in and your environment that you're in. So it should always be changing, right? So I think that is like when we test these things, the diversity of the gut, if you're following circadian biology, if you're not, then whatever. But if you're following circadian biology, lifestyle practices, and principles, your winter stool should actually have a different gut microbiome, right, than your summer stool, right? Because you're going to produce different beneficial bacteria when you're exposed to the stronger light frequencies like UVB. I mean, this is something that our body actually does. It will actually produce different bacteria when you put your body outside in UVB sunlight. It says, oh, UVB sunlight's out. I need this beneficial bacteria. So that, this is why I don't really think that this is really a great strategy. And then what the strategy is, if you have some sort of like I had H. pylori, you said you had some things, right? Okay, it's going to be take these herbs, right? Or take these things to kill it off, right? But the problem is it doesn't fix your susceptibility, right? So what happens usually, typically what I see and what I saw in myself as well, is that you take the herbs, maybe the symptoms go away, but then as soon as you stop, it comes back, right? And then it's like it just keeps coming back. And then it's like you just wasted your time and money because you didn't really get to the root cause, right? Because you didn't just decrease your susceptibility to these things because you haven't really fixed your redox, your energetic potential, and the real true reason why this occurred,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about these root causes, Vanessa.
Wait a minute. We're not ready for that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. My dog just, you can hear him. I'm sorry. He's going after a leaf, probably. The next one is probiotics.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's the other thing that we'll usually, can you hear the dog or no? He's really loud right now. I'm really
He'll
sorry.
stop. He'll stop.
Okay.
Probiotics. I've
Next one
spent so
is,
much money on probiotics, it's not even funny. Super expensive ones, histamine friendly ones. I mean, tons and tons of probiotics, right? I think it's more beneficial just to go throw yourself into the dirt.
oh my God, it is more beneficial to go through yourself in the dirt. That is where we should be help tending to our gut microbiome is by outside in nature. That's how we really diversify. But if they do, a probiotic does help you. Again, it's only going to palliate the symptom, and you will have to be on that probiotic long term, right? And it's only going to cause, I think that if you continue to take that same strain, it's just going to cause more imbalances in the body.
Yeah, it's like nature doesn't work in just single flavors. Yeah, I know Vanessa's going to take care of her dog, so I'm going to talk now. Um, it's like you need all the frequencies of light in order to have optimal health, in order to get about the balanced input that only nature can provide. And when we're just eating selected probiotics, like my dad was really a health nut and he was really big into, oh, you're back things. L. salivarius is one of the strains, and he'd literally buy, he sold vitamins. So he would literally buy a pallet of this stuff, L. salivarius, and like that was going to be the thing that cured everything. So that's kind of the old school mentality, right? It's this miracle cure, L. salivarius, and then before that was something, and after that was something else. So, bless his heart, like he got a lot of, maybe he got a lot of help from that, but it never really helped me. And I think when we isolate things like that, it's out of context, and it's not a balanced natural product. So using probiotics is like a good way to spend a lot of money and not really get very far with it.
It's like taking the L-glutamine powder, right? It's a good way to spend some money, but you're really probably not going to do much, right? Yeah. And I'm sorry about the dog. What I was saying is that if we just take one certain strain, like you said, your father was taking, I honestly think that can cause a big imbalance in the gut flora. And then we have too much of this strain and we have not enough of this strain. And, these things fight against each other. So we really want to have the proper balance of these things, right? Of these beneficial bacteria, right? And honestly, I wonder, I never really got any, benefit from taking a probiotic. And we think, oh, we take antibiotics, we're just going to go take a probiotic and that's going to fix it, which honestly, I don't think that that's how it works at all. But honestly, does it even, that probiotic even survive the, yes, hopefully
I
acidic
think it
stomach that we
does.
have?
Vanessa, I think some of them do. I've gone back and forth on this
Mm,
question. What I was in grad school and I was getting ready to go to class and I had taken some of these very expensive ones that I bought and I was like, whoa, I need to go to the bathroom like right now. And I like ran to the bathroom and thank God the health center was right there. But so it was a die-off reaction, right? So I think
mhm,
because I've had such severe gut issues my whole life. Like I've had
mhm.
all the things. I mean, so it's just that categorized as irritable bowel, right? That lovely syndrome, catch-all phrase. It means they don't really know how to help you, like PMS, premenstrual syndrome. So I think that it can definitely impact whatever's happening in there, and I think it was a die-off because Herxheimer reaction, right? So that's what happened for me. So I think some of them actually do. I don't know.
Mm.
That was just my experience.
Yeah. Well, for me, I took like a ton. I remember when I was working with one nutritionist and I had the dog bite, right? And they had given me IV antibiotics. She's like, "Oh, upload the probiotics, like take so many," you know what I mean? Like so I'm taking like 8 a day of whatever she told me to take and like all these different things. It just didn't feel any different. Like I don't know. For me, I didn't really notice a difference in it. So I
They
didn't
would
see the
make me
benefit.
constipated sometimes when I would take them,
Yeah.
or sometimes they would give me diarrhea. So it was really not helpful overall. Like I don't really think it
Yeah, but
actually
then I
changed.
think that it's just adding to the dysbiosis and
Right.
the imbalance, like because you're adding more, say, Saccharomyces boulardii, right, or something like that, which I did take for a long time. How do you know if that's still balanced? Like this is why if we do it from nature, if we do it from sunlight, if we do it from grounding, if we do it from being outside in nature, and from the diverse diets, right, then we're gonna have the correct balance. More likely than if we just taking synthetic probiotics. So I think that
Absolutely. Well,
that
and I
is the
think if
key
for
thing.
people who just cannot like wrap their mind around the idea that probiotics isn't necessarily the end all be all or first line of intervention, right? You should just do food sources like so sauerkraut or
Yes.
yogurt and all of those. There's so many different kinds of ferments you can do. Just do that, right?
Even raw dairy and raw
Yeah,
cheese, right? Just and
exactly.
then and vary it up. Don't always do just sauerkraut, right? Like vary it up so you get lots of ones in. So yeah, that's one of the solutions, of course, right? But let's talk about the real root cause of the issue and how to fix this, right? Because obviously the things that we've mentioned so far, like the probiotics and the functional medicine and the allopathic medicine, is not cutting it, right? So we need like what is actually going to cut it. And honestly, from my experience, clients' experience, it's sunlight, circadian biology, and homeopathy will support the gut so we can really get to the real root causes.
Hmm.
And honestly, I think it's important to just mention that for you to actually develop any gut issues, you have to have a genetic predisposition. And there's some sort of trigger that has activated it, right? There's always a genetic predisposition for any disease to be activated. And then there has to be a trigger that causes this genetic predisposition to become activated. And it could happen after one trigger, or it could be like many, many, many triggers that all of a sudden it's like too many stressors for your body. And then all of a sudden this genetic predisposition gets activated. And I think that really depends on the person's level of health. It depends on their constitution, all the things.
A good
So,
definition you just gave of epigenetics. So you have the genetic
yes.
predisposition, the environmental inputs and experiences you have, flip the switch to turn on whatever or to elicit that weakness inside of you. So epigenetic.
Yes, I do. Yeah. And, you know, I look at both my parents and even like my grandparents, and you see the gut issues in them. Like, so it's no apparent reason. Like, it's not any surprise to see that happen in myself, to see it happen in my brothers, because we are genetically predisposed on the gut level to have issues, right? We inherit our gut microbiome from our mom. And
Hmm.
it also is not only just the gut microbiome, but that's what we're talking about. But we inherit a lot from our mom, but definitely the gut microbiome. And it also is, you know, depending on, did you have a vaginal birth? Were you breastfed? And then how much sunlight exposure did you have as a child? Were you outside earthing? Were you
That's what all set
introducing?
me up there because my mom wasn't breastfed. I wasn't breastfed. Thank God it was a vaginal birth. But then I lived in Washington, where it's so dark and dreary and rainy, which is why I don't live there anymore. And my diet wasn't the greatest. So it's like, and lots of stress. So it's so obvious to me how that happened.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
obvious.
100%. And I had a vaginal birth. I was breastfed, but I still had colic. So that's how you know that
Okay.
my genetic predisposition is deep, right? Because that is coming from now, when a baby has colic, this is kind of like, okay, the gut microbiome is struggling even as an infant, right? So obviously that's an inherited thing. And it could have been any one of the things that we get when we're born. It could have been any of the antibiotics I took. It could have been any of those things. Those things were probably triggers for me that caused it,
Mm.
something to be activated in my body. I mean, and I ate like crap as a kid. I mean, honestly, I grew up as a child in the 90s. I mean, if you grew up in the 90s, you know how bad the food quality was. It was just literal shit. And, I mean, I was outside in sunlight and earthing, interacting with microbes in my environment. Thank God for that. I like to be outside and like to play outside and be barefoot and be at the beach.
Unfortunately,
So
it wasn't any better in the 70s, Vanessa, I have to say. We go back to the
yeah,
40s. Now we're talking about some better food. 50s,
yeah, yeah,
60s, things
maybe.
started going downhill.
Yeah, it's so true. So number one is a genetic predisposition, and it also depends on, your constitution and what level of health you were born in, right? That's a big, important part of it. And then the number one reason why the number one trigger to these genetic predispositions is the suppressive therapies. I mean, come on, antibiotics actually mean anti-life. That's what it actually means, like the definition of antibiotic. It's
Mhm.
going to kill both the pathogenic bacteria and the beneficial bacteria. This is going to destroy your mitochondria. I mean, obviously, these are really, that needs to be put out there because I
It's
don't
like
think
a
any,
slash and burn approach. It's like,
yeah.
just let's, kill it all, wipe it all out. I would not take them nowadays, Vanessa, unless I were dying, to be
Oh,
honest.
yeah, me too. I'm the same way. There's no way. Avoid at
But
all
let's remind
costs.
people suppressive therapies include, this is harder for me, like not like putting something on a wart. It's like, well, that's really hard. Like I don't want to wart.
But that is a
Also, not
suppressive
not taking
therapy.
off skin tags. Like I've had them removed. I'll be honest right now with our listeners. Like I don't like them. I've had some for years and then they get all long and dangling. I'm like, that's disgusting. I'm taking it off. That is a suppressive therapy. Now I'm like not happy about that. Like it's like, really, I can't even do that.
Well, I think we have to weigh out our options and meet people where they're at, right? So it's like whatever you feel comfortable with. But honestly, I think that the things that there are stronger ones and there are, you know what I mean? There are ones that are more suppressive. And I mean, I'm reading one of a book from Samuel Hahnemann about all the things that are suppressive, like everything that we do to the skin and the dangers of how suppressive that is, and how he showed
Mm,
time at case after case
gotta
after
read that.
case
What's it
after
called?
case. Oh, it's upstairs in my room. I don't remember. I
Okay,
have to
send it to
go.
me.
Something with chronic diseases though. It has the word
Okay.
chronic disease in it, and it's Samuel Hahnemann's.
Okay, cool.
And he's the founder of homeopathy. But it's case after case of how things that were suppressed on the skin level, and then the diseases that showed up
Oh, great. So there's
afterwards.
no hope for me. No, I'm kidding.
There is always hope, but suppression on the skin is
The beginning.
huge.
Yeah, I know.
It's really huge because the skin is how our body is letting the shit out. That skin tag, that wart, that rash, that eczema, this is the way your body's releasing.
Yep.
And then when you suppress it, you're pushing it into the direction of cure. We talked about this. Now we're pushing it back into a more vital organ. The skin is the least vital, right?
Well, it's like the body has to reabsorb it and try to figure out what to do with it, contain it, deal with it. And that's not good. We want to let we want to let it get out of the body. And that's what all these things are,
Yes.
rashes and stuff. And it's so socially crippling for people, right? I understand it.
Yeah.
And now that I know, like I always have gotten cold sores, and I mean, since high school, since I was young, but so did my grandfather. I'm like, oh, there it is. Coming, my mom coming down the line, right? For real. And like 75% of people have those, but still, it's like, we'll do anything to not have that shame of like, oh my God, I look funny. It's really hard.
Oh, yeah, no, it is hard. I totally understand it. It's not something fun to live with, and nobody wants to look different and have those things.
But now that I know what I know, I'm just gonna let it all, whatever needs to
Let,
pop
let it
out.
all
Come
let
on,
it all out,
bring
Heather.
it on.
I'm actually hoping for some skin things. I'm like, get out of my organs and be on my skin. Every time I get a pimple, I'm like, oh, good.
Yes,
My
pimple.
liver is less burdened. Like seriously, I really think that. So yeah. So antibiotics, obviously, any suppressive therapies, we're talking about jabs, we're talking about birth control pills, we're talking about over the counters, non-sterile anti-inflammatories. They damage the gut lining so much, right? And people pop them like candy.
Yep.
I did. I used to,
I
yeah,
did. Well, I
yeah,
had
I
such
had
horrible cramps, menstrual cramps, and I for years I tried not to do anything, and then I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
I get it. You know, very active and I was into running and weightlifting and you have a lot of energy injuries. You're like, I'm just gonna pop these, and I was living on them for quite some time. So we've all done it.
That
So
probably for both of us contributed to our collapses. Like when you had your health crisis, I had my health crisis. All that stuff coalesces and combines to just bring your overall vitality down, and then boom, now you're having a bigger issue.
yeah, and each one of these times you've used these suppressive therapies, it's like one more block, you know what I mean, on your immune system. One more, one more, one more. And then we
Compromising your immune system.
yeah, it like builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Or like you can think of it as a toxin bucket, right? That overflows and all of a sudden it's just too much, right?
Yep.
So yeah. So it's really important that. So the other one is stress. The other trigger is absolutely stress.
Who's stressed?
So
You're not stressed. I'm not stressed.
right now I'm not stressed. This is fun.
That's- but let's be
Emotional.
real. It's
No.
this is I think the number one issue for modern humans is stress. When we think, oh, we have all these modern devices, we have all these things to help us. No, I mean, there's obviously disadvantages of pre electricity and pre modern whatever, but still there's newer stresses and
Mhm.
different kind of stressors that are really, really being and the environmental stressors are probably the number one.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's definitely, yeah. I'm thinking about just emotional stress right now, but yeah, environmental stressors too, but stress in general, right? So, but emotional stress, relationship, work, family, like suppressed emotions, trauma, shock, grief, these are all going to affect your gut health big time, your nervous system, and that's going to impair your body's ability to absorb and assimilate nutrients like 1,000,000%. So I would say all of these, sometimes, these things can't be avoided, but we have to learn how to cope and how to handle them and all of
I think
that.
it'd
So
be interesting, Vanessa, to look at cultures that have a lot of strong traditions and used to be regarded by, let's be honest, the northern cultures as primitive, which is the most horrible. I can't stand that pejorative word, but they had like dance and they had song and they had like natural nature-based rituals that were like they would come together and they would that's how they would process these emotions of birth and death and marriage and or whatever they called it, this and that and the other. All of it was a way to work those emotions through and be in your
mm,
body with them. I put a story on my Instagram this morning about that. We don't
mm,
have those kind of healthy rituals. And
mhm,
we have other rituals like watching Netflix and doing all this other stuff that because rituals should move energy through you, keeping your system vital and your
mm,
energy optimal. That's a healthy ritual. And rituals that are not healthy, because we have rituals. A lot of people have rituals. Let's go to Starbucks. I don't know, I'm gonna get shit for saying that, but that's not a healthy ritual. Like that's not helping your energy flow. That's just like putting stuff in that your body has to process through, like a lot of caffeine every day and sugar. So these rituals though that these peoples would have that we used to have some more of, we had some more of it, but I'm talking like more warmer cultures where they could be outside and they're bare feet on the earth and they don't have a lot of clothes on, right? So their stomach is getting all that wonderful light and then they're singing, they're actually with that energy of the emotion and they move it through. We don't have much of that.
mhm. No, we don't have any of that.
Our culture is really about emotions are bad. They're
Yeah.
toxic. They're like taboo. You can't have too much emotion or you're going to be weak and vulnerable. Like I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that when I was doing psychotherapy. It's like I can't have emotion because then I'm weak. It's like what the hell is that?
I
What
feel
that's
that.
so
I feel
toxic.
that. I feel that. I feel that for
No,
sure. That's something
no.
that's definitely been, programmed in us. I mean, I'm
Think
not like
about
that
how
now.
much emotional energy gets stuck in us and then our body is compromised by that. And that
Oh
I think
yeah.
is a big contributor to gut issues.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. But yeah, I definitely have felt that I mean, I'm not doing that now. Now I'm like, no, now I'm going to say how I feel. I mean, I'm in a different place, but I definitely in my past, yeah, I can definitely say I've been there.
Mhm.
And that stuff's got to move through still now because it doesn't go away. This is what, just like the antibiotics don't go away, that grief that you buried down that you never wanted to talk about, that trauma, that's still there. It's stuck in your body. So, We need to work through those things. Honestly, I think one of the things that really helped me too, besides homeopathy and circadian biology, was EFT tapping therapy. That was huge. I mean, that's a
But
really
think of
great
that,
how
it's kind of like a ritual though, right? It's a ritual.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a
I
process
could
you
see
go
it.
through.
Yeah. And I had that a really great provider that I can, had this great connection with that she was really awesome. Like we're still friends now, she's a really great person. So that was really supportive and it was a safe place for me to move through that trauma. Right. So that's, you have to find your ways. Everybody's going to find their own little ways and how to work through it. But I definitely think that moving through those emotions that we've buried down deep in our soul have to happen.
Well, and think about people living a perpetual state of stress. It's literally your sympathetic activation, fight, flight, or freeze all the time. This is the norm for people, and they don't even realize how stressed out they are. Your body is like holding on to things, and you're going to be either constipated or you're going to have diarrhea. Like for this, the fear is in your gut, and then everything just evacuates, or you're holding it like this, and then your gut can't, the things don't flow. So
Yeah.
either way, right? This stress is like a huge contributor to gut issues, huge, and emotional challenges. Because the
Yeah.
more funky your gut is, the harder it is for you to have like be calm and clear-minded and right. And you get depressed, you get anxious, you get more uptight. It's just this vicious cycle.
Yeah. Well, so people, you got to get on your circadian biology and your homeopathy and look for ways to support your trauma. We'll talk about that, right? So, yeah. So another trigger or another reason for gut issues, which this one is going to be unpopular, I feel like, because people don't want me to tell you to not eat fruit in winter, but eating foods out of season actually is a contributor to gut health issues for sure. Your food that you eat needs to match the light environment that your eyes and skin are exposed to. We have said this before. We have a really good podcast all about this, actually. It's like the one of the first ones, like 1, 2, or 3. Might have been like the third one, all about how to eat a seasonal diet and, quantum nutrition, I think it's called. But food is actually an electromagnetic barcode and contains energy and information. And like I said before, when you eat simple sugars in winter, your gut is not making the correct beneficial bacteria to digest those foods due to the lack of UVB light. So your body doesn't have the beneficial bacteria to digest that, say, I don't know, the strawberries in this wintertime because your gut's not making it, right? Your gut microbiome will change due to the light strength in each season. So it also doesn't have enough cortisol usually either if you're following circadian biology practices. That's another reason because the cortisol also is what helps actually the high cortisol level in the summer, which is when your cortisol should be the highest on a sunny summer day at noon is when you should have the highest cortisol. This is another reason why testing cortisol makes no sense because if you test it in the winter, it's definitely going to be a lot different than in the summer. Right? We have to take the seasonality into things when we do these testings. But in the summertime, you have a high enough cortisol in your body to help digest these foods and help with the blood sugar, and you have the UVB light to deplete it. It's just all
It all
matches.
works together. If you do things out like because man thinks he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, wherever he wants, that creates problems.
What
So
is
anything out of
Laura's?
context.
Yeah. What is Laura saying? You break nature's laws and you get man's disease or something. She has a great saying, but that's it. Like when you break nature's laws, this is
Like
what
it.
happens, right? So it's like it's all set up for us if we just follow the simple, just think about it if it makes sense. If strawberries are not growing in December, should I consume them? Like, just think about that. Does that make sense? Actually, what
Yeah,
makes
well,
sense?
let's just put in the reality check here because it's not that you can't have a Christmas cookie or some strawberry
No, of
jam
course
that
not.
in the wintertime. But I would say that the qualifier here, Vanessa, is the lower your level of health, which means like the more crap you feel and the more health issues you have, you probably want to be a little more diligent in aligning yourself with the net seasons. And the more robust you are and you have like very few health issues at all, you can maybe, be a little more liberal in your choices. So it
Agreed.
depends on who you are, what you want, your goals, and what your body can basically manage.
Agreed. Agreed. It definitely depends on the person. But I do think that like I said, it doesn't have to be so strict, so rigid. 100%. Definitely you can, but uh for optimal, if you want to be optimal, this is the way to go, because honestly, that is going to create inflammation in the body. It does lead to weight gain and metabolic issues, all the things, right? So it definitely is, I want to be optimal. So I'm going to, I follow that, like that's how I feel. And then the
Good.
last one, I think you have something to say?
Good. I'm glad. I love it. You're
Yeah.
motivated.
Awesome. The last one is toxins, and I would include glyphosate, which actually acts like an antibiotic in the gut actually, so it really can destroy like so many things in our gut microbiome. We have a great episode with Dr. Stephanie Seneff. Take a listen to that one if you want to go back, so you can learn more about the dangers of glyphosate and pesticides. But any kind of toxin, also artificial blue light, also destroys your gut microbiome, especially at night. And non-native EMFs also. So we have episodes on all these topics. I would go back and listen to them, but these things play a big role in gut health. And because light is so important, and that's how we're going to go to next, is how to really heal. Well, the first thing we have to do is learn to manage our light environments. That's the number one thing we have to do. We have to learn how to use sunlight as a healing modality, and we have to learn how to mitigate our light environment when we are exposed to light that we don't want to be exposed to, right? So that is the number one recommendation I would say to really start healing. And if you're on a, gut protocol from somebody else and they didn't tell you about light and getting your gut in sunlight, which I think is so imperative. I do it every day. I mean, now it's only like March here and I'm outside getting my gut in the sunlight because it's so important, because that near infrared light will help your mitochondria make subcellular melatonin, which will then help repair your body all day long. So
Mm-hmm.
it is so important. And that red light is available all day, every season, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need to get your gut in the sunlight. That is the number one thing. And I know Heather has, offerings to support it, to learn about sunlight. I have this cheapest way, the most affordable way is I have a Get Your Light Right ebook, and I will teach you how to use sunlight as, a healing modality and how to mitigate your indoor lifestyle, so you can really use light to support your health and healing. But honestly, I think it's the number one thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, is with the light.
Yeah, 100%. Because the light that enters your eyes and touches your skin sends messages to your brain, to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the paraventricular nucleus. And then through the gut brain axis, it tells the body about the gut, the beneficial gut bacteria it needs to produce based on that light code it receives. This
Mm-hmm.
is how that actually happens. It's through the gut brain axis. So your body will know, hey, there's no UVB light. I don't need to produce gut bacteria for that. I need to, be able to digest more complex carbohydrates or hey, it's UVB. I need to produce beneficial bacteria to produce, to be able to digest things like fruit and honey and all those kinds of things
That
that
are
are not,
available in the summer. Mm-hmm.
right, that are available in the summer, those simple sugars, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really important. We have to get our circadian biology aligned. And honestly, our gut and our cells, right, and our gut lining is meant to repair every single night, right? It's
I think
meant to
it's like,
do
what
that.
is it, 3 to 5 days or 7 days or
Yes.
something? You have a new gut lining. And I always think, Vanessa, like, is there something wrong with it? My gut's not like having a totally new gut lining, which means I'm going to be a whole new person. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's true though. I mean, your gut is creating new gut cell, the epithelial. What is it called? No, that's not the right word. The gut lining.
I don't know. I call it the gut lining.
Let's just call it the gut lining.
The gut lining. But honestly, it's meant to repair every night. And your repair mechanisms are controlled by light. So this is why we really need to honor the darkness, so the pineal gland melatonin can get released, right? You have to get out in the AM sunlight, and the UVA light to have the pathway from the tryptophan to the serotonin. Then the pineal gland melatonin can be released in the absence of light or in the presence of darkness. The only way that gets to happen. So if you want to get good autophagy and apoptosis, you have to be, thinking about your light environment, because it is going to suppress melatonin if you are exposed to artificial light at night. And then you're not really going to get the repairing that you're hoping. I mean, some people say it happens in 3 to 5 days. I honestly think the reason, if you want my honest opinion about that, like why some people struggle, even though they're doing the circadian biology stuff with their gut health. So I do think it's the suppressive
I
therapies that,
think you're right.
I honestly do. And then I would also say the trauma. Those are the two things I would say, the trauma and the suppressive therapies.
Right. So since I have both of those, then it's not a possibility for me
Yeah.
to be able to just my whole gut transform itself in 3 days. It's a long, it is getting better. And I always
Yeah.
notice that when the more sunlight I get on my belly and in general, the fewer gut issues I have. So
Oh, same. Me too. Me too. The sunlight is so healing. That's why we're so passionate about spreading the message about getting sun on your gut because it's going to make a difference, you know?
yep. Hmm.
So I actually want to ask you something. I heard somebody say in the quantum world that infrared light can actually penetrate through clothing. And I was like, that's interesting because I'm always thinking that it can't.
Hmm.
But I wonder. Now I have to look that information up. I'm gonna write
I
myself
don't
a note.
know. I don't know that.
I think because it's a longer wavelength of light, maybe that it
Could
can
be.
penetrate through.
Not the UV light maybe cannot, but maybe the red and infrared can.
Right. No, UV light, because it's a shorter wavelength, I don't think can, but I heard somebody say that and I was like, I need to find out some more information on that because that's pretty interesting. So like even if you are taking a walk in winter outside and you're outside and you're clothed, you're still getting some infrared. I don't know. I hope that that's true, but I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously it's better to be as
I mean, I
much.
think most people have too many clothes on. They have, big old coats on. If you
Oh,
have just maybe a thin cotton shirt, perhaps, I don't know.
yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm wondering about that though. Made me think of it. Anyway, the other thing I would say that's really important is circadian meal timing. This can be really supportive, blocking artificial light at night, which you mentioned. So if you need support on learning how to do these practices, I know you have some offerings. I have my Rebalance Your Rhythms course where you can learn all this information completely on your own. It's self-paced, but I also have one-to-one coaching and personalized healthcare plans. So all of that can really, you know, you can learn all this information and it's super, super supportive. So yeah.
Mhm. You can find my offerings on my website, enlightenmood.com.
Yeah, I always forget to say mine. Mine is brightlightwellnesscoach.com. So go ahead and check that out and then you can check out the offerings there and see what fits for you. And then the last thing I would say is homeopathy is another really great way to uproot, the root cause of disease. And it actually, the thing about that, it's unique to you. The medicine or, that remedy that you're going to get is unique to you. So it's going to hopefully match the frequency and the vibration that you need, right? And it chips away at all of these. I If you have gut health issues, it's not just one suppressive therapy. It's not just one trauma. It's going to chip away slowly at all of these things, right?
Mhm.
It's lightly every time you do it, you're taking one of those bricks away, right? Every time you take a new remedy, hopefully you're taking one of those layers away. You're helping support and strengthen the immune system. And, you know, it's going to support you on the physical, mental, emotional level. Like I said, strengthen the immune system, strengthen the gut health, and just, hopefully remove any pathology if that's what you have. I just was saying to Heather offline, it's interesting. One of the things on my GI map was H. pylori, right? Which is, this is a pathogen, right? That a lot of people deal with. And I had a lot of it came back, it's funny, it was gone, but then on my homeopathic journey, return of old symptoms, right? It was the burping, it was the fullness in the ribs, it was the heartburn, all of that. And then I'm taking a remedy because things were just really hairy at that time. And I was like, I need a remedy because I'm exhibiting a lot of symptoms. And I took the remedy and I haven't had any of those symptoms since that remedy. And that was almost a year ago.
Wow. That's
So
so amazing. That's why homeopathy is so powerful.
I also will say that's a good remedy. I won't say what the remedy is because I don't want people to go out and
I
just
know,
buy it.
right? Yeah.
But it does remove suppressive therapies. It is one that helps remove jabs, actually, in particular. And I also had a food intolerance to egg whites in particular, where I could never eat egg whites. It would cause a lot of joint pain, and
Wow.
I don't have that issue anymore either.
Mhm.
So there are
That's so
lots of.
interesting.
It is interesting, right? But these are real, true, factual stories. That these things can really happen.
Hmm.
So it can remove pathology, just up level your health. It's totally, catalyzes your body. The reason why it sticks, I want to just explain the reason why it's different than taking like an herb or supplement that just took it away, right? Is because it's not that the homeopathy did the work, it's that I did the work. My body did the work. And that is the major difference between a supplement or an herb that maybe is going to just kind of like band-aid the situation. Homeopathy is that catalyst that reminds your body to do the work. So when you do the heavy lifting, that's a game changer because you are now stronger, right? Your body, your immune system put that work in and fixed it. Homeopathy, I always say this to clients, the magic is not in homeopathy. The magic is in you. Homeopathy is just the catalyst. It's
Hmm.
just the nudge that your body needs, right?
Hmm.
So, and actually, the other thing that homeopathy can do is can get the electrons spinning in the appropriate way, right? We've seen papers on that these suppressive therapies, and I guarantee stress and trauma also make the electron spin
Oh, for
inappropriately.
sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I have not seen that study, but I would guarantee that. But anyway, when you take suppressive therapies, the electrons can, get off track. They're spinning backwards or spinning the wrong way. They're just, stop spinning. They're not doing the right thing. They're not spinning.
Haywire.
Yeah, it's chaos, right? Chaos is inflammation, right?
Yep.
But remedies actually have been proven to give it again, not just like any general remedy, the remedy that matches you, right? Is can actually get those electrons spinning back into the right coherent way. I mean, that's like amazing,
That's
right?
amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, that's the quantum. That's why homeopathy is a quantum medicine. Hmm.
Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
yeah, because it's working on that deep subatomical level. It's just so, and because you do the work. That's what I always like. That also makes me feel like it's quantum because it's like, and it pushes your body to do the work. It's very, very different than taking an allopathic medicine where that just stops it.
Totally.
You're supporting instead of suppressing, right? It's just such a different modality. So,
I just want a few little last bullet points, Vanessa, that
yeah.
our relationship with food matters, right?
Mm,
But it's not all about the food.
mm-mm.
It's all the things we've talked about in this podcast. And then the last few bits here I would say is how you like your state, your energetic state when you eat, and then how you connect with that food or not. So people like I have the bad habit of, I mean, I'm very passionate about food and high quality food and that, but then I tend to not. I want to like look at a magazine or a book when I'm eating. You really should be
Mm-mm.
connecting with your food. You should be also preparing yourself. This is cephalic response, I believe it's called. I learned about from Carrie Bennett, where you're seeing the food, you're imagining eating the food, you're looking at the colors, and it elicits the digestive response before you even put the food in your mouth. That's what you really want to do. You're actually grounded in the process of eating the food. So your body is getting prepared in many different ways before it even touches your mouth. Then
Mhm.
also just being able to sit down and relax and connect in a sensory manner with the food, the textures, the smells, the tastes, in a joyful, relaxed environment, hopefully with people you love, hopefully, or not, or maybe your pet, whatever it is. But so that, you're having an experience that's meaningful versus like, I'm just going to eat these nutrients or whatever your conception of food is. It's like, let's make it a little more robust because your body is going to be more
Yes.
relaxed and in a parasympathetic state to receive the nutrients, to have itself prepared to process. It sounds mechanical, but transmute the nutrients or the food itself into the nutrients and energy that is what leads to your vitality. Really, that's what
I
it's about.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it's such an amazing point. And honestly, in our modern fast-paced world, the culture is go, 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 eat on the run. Like I can think back to another reason why my gut was likely such a mess when I was teaching and working, on that kind of fast-paced life. It's like I ate and worked all the time. And people do this, right? And I ate on the go, I ate in my car. I never like sat down for a meal. Like it's actually, you have to take the time. If you want to work on your gut health, you do have to take the time to sit down and really enjoy your meal, breathe, take the technology away. Don't, you know what I mean? Take the things away. I try to like, when it's warm out, the weather is finally nice enough where I can go bring my meals outside and I sit outside
Absolutely.
in nature and I eat my meals and I don't do anything else. There's nothing else going. I'm just sitting in nature or I'm with my family eating whatever. But I think that's really important. And when you said Carrie Bennett, it reminded me of her wonderful tip that she always says about chewing your food. It's
Yes.
actually very, very important though. And
Yep.
I started paying attention to it and I am chewing a lot, which is really good. But like pay attention to how many times you're actually chewing before you swallow. More is better there. You want to really chew your food because this helps all the digestive processes really function a lot better. So it prepares everything. So chew your food. That's another really good one. And then of course you want to eat nutrient dense, bioavailable foods, local, seasonal, organic, we talked about that, fermented foods, with different variety. If you have a histamine
Highest quality
issue,
you can get.
yeah,
Mhm.
highest quality you can get. If you have a histamine issue, ferments might not work out. So, be cautious of that. But, try to incorporate what you can to have diversity and variety into your diet as much as you can, because I do think, not that you should eat something. I want to be clear. If you're adverse to something, don't eat it. If you have a reaction to something, don't eat it, because Vanessa said, oh, you want to have diversity in your diet. No, I don't eat this. I will try the strawberries again. If they don't go good, I will not eat them. Right. Because I'm not going to continue to put something in my body that is
Irritating.
harming my system. Right. So there is nuance, right? You want to have variety, but you don't want to shove things in your mouth that you're adverse to, or that's causing you any kind of issues. Right. So that's,
We could probably do like 3 more podcasts on this topic, but we tried to give you the overview.
Oh my God, I could do dream work.
I know,
Some
I
stuff,
know.
like, it's such a fun one.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and it's such an important topic, and we'll definitely probably revisit it again in the future, I would say, because it's something that we continue to learn and grow, and then add more knowledge and share that with you, because I think that's really important for us to be doing too. So,
absolutely.
all right. So yeah, I
Thanks
think
for
that's,
tuning in today,
yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
We
Have a good
appreciate
day.
your listening, and we look forward to sharing more very soon.